Should this entire episode be about how expensive DoorDash is?
Yes.
$90, you guys. $90 to buy bundt cakes. It's fine. It's fine. That's not what we're going to talk about today, but I will tell you, if you are wanting to save money, little financial tip, I'm just going to give it to you for free. Stop fucking ordering DoorDash. I went to Crazy Bowls and Wraps the other day with a man. Oh my God. Anyway, we went and we got Crazy Bowls, and both of us for our bowls was like, I don't know, like $28 or something. To DoorDash it was $65. By the way, they are literally like right down the street. So anyway, do not go to DoorDash or Uber Eats, or what's the other one? Like the something. Anyway, stop spending your money. Okay, so that's actually not what I want to talk about. I was very inspired by a client conversation the other day. So I feel like that's truly where I want to like start with. I don't know where this like narrative is that so many people assume because my business is very financially successful that like I don't have problems. I don't know where has that come from? I don't fucking know. Anyway, I had a call with a client. She is very new in her business, and we were having a conversation around confidence because funny enough, the last like 6 clients that have had a one-on-one call with me, I did this really big push for our headquarters program, and a couple of my clients got one-on-one calls with that. Every single one was like, I just need like better confidence, Ashley. Like I'm really struggling with confidence. And I'm like, what? Anyway, it's been very interesting like having these conversations with women that I'm like, you were the most impressive fucking person in the world, but yet you like just cannot envision yourself charging the way you want. You cannot envision yourself having the confidence in the sales process to be like, I know I can help you, and like really like sell them. Like, I know that I can help you. Like we need to work together. It's like this like very passive, I just hope people see me and like really like me energy that I'm seeing in business owners. And it's been kind of wild to see, but I've been seeing it more and more. And so I thought I'd talk about how often I cry. Not really like this. I think the episode should actually be called How Often I Cry, because I think that would be very enticing to you guys. But I was on a call with this client, and 30 minutes before that, I was on a group call that she was also on. And I was like, yeah, I was crying about my business the other day. And they're like, what do you have to be like stressed about? And I equated this the same as when people tell me that like Kylie Jenner has no room to talk about like stress or overwhelm or anything because like she's rich. And I'm like, she's also a person. She has a heart. She has a soul. She has all of these things. Yeah, she has wealth. But transparently, as I've grown my personal wealth and grown our business, like we've had more problems. We've had more things that we've had to tackle. And I don't necessarily think that money like makes us happy. I've talked about that before. I do think it makes life easier, but it also makes areas of your life significantly harder and more challenging. And I think with more money comes more responsibility. And if you're a business owner, asking people to pay you to be able to allow you to have that more money, yeah, it can fucking be heavy sometimes. So I want to talk about crying. I want to talk about heaviness in business. I want to talk about the days where I don't feel like I have it all together. I want to talk about imposter syndrome. I'm just going to kind of chat. And for all of you guys that are business owners right now that are overwhelmed and annoyed with the I have it all together, I've talked about this now like 5 different times, I have it all together mindset. I want to be very transparent about like what I face as a business owner and just like what it looks like to feel heaviness and sadness and like confusion as a business owner. So here's the deal is when I first started my business, I think I was very lucky that I was busy. And a lot of people like tell me that they are in a space in business right now where they're working a full-time job, or they're, trying to scale and they're an agency, or I have a lot of clients in Done For You. Like almost all my clients are photographers, agency owners, ops managers, VAs. Like I have a ton of clients in that realm. And so like they are not coaches where they can like answer a question, like be done with client support, right? Like they have content to do, they have ClickUp build outs to do, they have Dubsado, like whatever it is. And so I was thinking about this and I was like, how would my business have looked different if I was in that space? And obviously things would have been very different, but I also think that there's a lot of blessing in being busy, because sometimes when you're busy, you don't have time to like sit around and be stressed because you like literally don't have time for it. So I think that's the blessing in it. And when I was newer in business, there was part of me that was just so fucking committed to like, I need to market, I need to sell, that I didn't really have time to like cry or be stressed. I do remember this one specific time though. I was meeting all my friends on a Saturday at like 9 a.m. to go, I think to like the farm. It was my friend's birthday. And I remember that I hopped on a sales call right before that. And I literally like hopped on and it was the easiest sales call. And she paid me, I think $1,250 or something, or $1,500 or something in full. And I remember like going over to my friends, and I remember like this weird moment where I was like, I just made $1,500 in cash in like a 10-minute conversation. And like, that's what this one friend's going to make like all month. And it was like very eye-opening to me. That was really interesting. I like remember that vividly. But I also remember like, I just didn't have a lot of time to process what was happening. I just kind of moved. And I don't necessarily say that I recommend that. I just think that that was my reality. So here's the deal. I quit my job about 2.5 years ago, when her 7-figure story, my first business, was at like a 30, 40, 50K kind of inconsistent month. We were very new in getting to that point. So we had done like a 50K cash month. The next month was 30K. I think I made up the rest of that. So that was probably around 50. And then I remember July was fucking horrible. So I think we did like 10K in sales, but I still think we did like 30K in cash, something like that. So my business was doing well. I was like 6 months in, and I left my job. And I think that was the first moment where I could like sit alone with my emotions. And ever since then, I think I've really struggled with like, what does it look like to be happy in business where like my money and happiness are not like on the same, whatever you would call it, like pendulum, or the, what do you call like the thing that's like the balance beam or whatever? Yeah. Yeah. The thing, right? Like the thing, the pendulum, is that a word? Did I just make that up? Whatever it is, right? Like I didn't want those two things to be equated together. And I think one of the biggest mistakes I made as a business owner is I let that become my reality very often. I got very influenced by how quickly people were growing. I got very influenced by how successful certain people were. I felt like I was like a top tier individual because people were like, you grew so fast. And I just felt like a lot of pressure to keep growing. So unfortunately, in the beginning, I equated so much of my like wealth and happiness and joy, like I put them all in the same fucking bucket. And like very truthfully looking back, they were all fish that needed their own fucking pond. And they should not have been like mating with each other in the same pond. It was very heavy for me. It felt very confusing to me. And I think I always just never felt good enough in my business. So I think the first time I really felt like massive heaviness, when I was like, whoa, I'm like, I can't do this, was actually when I hired a really great now friend of mine, but I hired a girl as a business coach about 3 months in to Buy the Blazer launching. And I want to tell you why this was heavy for me, because here's the deal. Working with that coach for the last 2 years has been literally life-changing. I love her so dearly. We're good friends now. I've worked with like 4 or 5 mentors over the last course of 2 years. And they've all had like their weight and their happiness and their like goodness in my journey. Well, some of them were actually horrible, as I talked about the other week. But working with her was like such a good thing for me. Now, it was the most expensive decision I've ever made in my business. It was very financially stressful at the beginning of my business, because yes, I was making a lot of cash, but I also like had hired a team at the time. Like I was like, oh, I'm going to hire, like outsource a couple things. And I was trying to do so much that I had money going everywhere. So actually, funny enough, when I felt like my business should have been the easiest, I made it the hardest. And on the front end, my business looked the best, but on the back end, I was like, what the fuck is happening? I was like pouring money here. I bought a course here. I did this. And there were months, you guys, where I looked down at my bank account and I had spent $75,000 in a month. Like there was 3 different months where that happened that year. Anyway, I think I just was like throwing sticks. I was just like throwing spaghetti. I was just throwing fucking some type of sticky long thing at something and it was not working. But anyway, going back to this coach, the reason that this coach I think I really struggled with, and I want to give you guys permission that if you are in a coaching container right now, please take this and like use this to utilize your coaching, your support better. I talked to my clients about this week, but I was so obsessed with her brain that I started to believe she had knowledge that like I just didn't have yet. And so all I tried to do in the first 6 months of working with her is like become her. I was like, I want to be your offers. I want to be your this. I want to like obsess. And about 6 months into that process, I think I really just started to question myself substantially. I also remember that our sales were down heavily because one of the best things I did at the beginning of my business was I was just so natural on social media that when someone tried to add a lot of strategy to that naturalness, it like completely flopped. And I find this a lot with you guys, especially like my new clients. I'm speaking to you all. You come into my space, you learn past method, you learn our authority content, you learn all these things, and you're like, I need to do that. I need to change. And you go from here where things aren't necessarily perfect. You're not getting as many leads as you want. And you go from here to here. And it takes time to adjust. You feel a little more lost. It's not as natural. And you end up going from like this place where I feel like you thrive. And instead, it's just like a mess, right? Like it's like Ryan Reynolds, right? When he was in The Proposal. Ryan Reynolds was meant for The Proposal, okay? Like that was his lane. Now, in order to elevate his acting career, like there's things that he could do or change or whatever, but like that was his lane. And if he went into, I don't even know what fucking genre I can think of. By the way, I saw Deadpool, horrible. I don't know, like what, I don't understand how anyone likes that movie, but that, like, I'm assuming that's his lane as well. I'm not really sure. But like, that's where he's meant to thrive. And if he went a completely different direction, a completely different lane, you're going to feel that like, this does not make sense. And literally, I wish I had like a lane that I could use as an example. You guys keep pivoting so fucking much. It makes absolutely no fucking sense. It's like Alex Earl, right? She could take my past method. She could take my strategies, but like she honestly thrives by her all over the place energy, right? Like she's like, get ready with me. We're doing something crazy. Boobies out. Like that's her vibe. Like that is her. And when she goes way far off of that, people like fucking hate it, right? And even though that content might work for me, it does not work for her. And so many of you guys are putting yourself in this box because you're like, this coach has this strategy. Let me follow the strategy. Let me go implement. And I don't think it really makes any sense for you. So my whole point in saying that is I was so obsessed with like, she had this success. I was here, she was here. Instead of saying like, what elements can I take from her lane to put in my lane? I literally just went into her lane. Like I was like, she like went over. Holy shit, was I crying a lot. Anyway, I remember there was actually this specific day where I felt like I was failing so bad. And I remember I texted her and I was like, hey, I'm feeling really overwhelmed. I think I'm going to launch an agency. And I might have told you guys this before, but she literally messaged me. She goes, hey, like, do you have time to chat? And we hopped on a call at like 9 p.m. at night. Like this was late and she is in Eastern time. So this was 10 p.m. her time. And I was like, yeah, like what's up? And she goes, bitch, you are not launching an agency. And I go, what do you mean? And she just was like, what's going on? And I just start crying. And I think I just was so overwhelmed because again, instead of saying I'm here, I'm going to look over here and I'm going to say, what do I like? And when I'm going to bring it back to like where I'm already at, like grow where I'm planted, right? Like if you were a fucking, whatever, a tree, right? You might need sunlight. You might need this. You don't need to fucking move the tree to another area. Like that's not what you do. And I moved my fucking tree. I moved my tree. I moved it over into a lane that I was not ready for. I completely lost myself and then I couldn't find my way back. And I think that's the other thing that's really hard about business is we put ourselves in these positions where we can't find our way back. And I've had way too many calls with you guys where you're like, I met with this coach. I felt like they had all the answers. I copied their business and then I couldn't really find myself. And now half of my job, you guys, you want to like look at our revenue last month, cut it in half. Half of that is literally getting business owners back to being them, to marketing in a good way that feels good for them, to utilizing their gifts to grow their business. I've had to like now experience it myself, but I've also had to like implement that for other people because I think we just get so caught up on like someone being so amazing that we like literally we like drive off of a fucking cliff to like meet them where they're at versus like taking those pieces and like putting it to elevate us or help us move quicker or smarter or faster or sell better or whatever like the issues are. So that I think was like the first time that I really did that. The thing that I think has been really hard this past year is I really do give a shit about my clients. And what's sad is I unfortunately feel like that's something people market because not enough people actually care anymore. But I really do care about my clients. And one of the things that I've really struggled with is price point with delivery, with positioning, with like my time. And what I mean by that is I'll take an example of DBM because DBM is like our highest level mastermind. One of the things that I've really struggled with is I don't actually really sell private very often. I love one-on-one. I think it's incredible. I only have a couple people in it. I usually only will have a couple people in it. And I've always really wanted to make our mastermind a very affordable way for people to have a private type experience, but in the capacity of a mastermind. And so I've kind of always like struggled with like, what does that look like? What does that feel like? Like, what is that process? And so when I started, I had originally had like architect, which was for foundations and expansion for expanding. And I fucking hated that, as you guys have learned in other episodes. I'll try to link those so you guys can go back to that. But when I was supporting clients, I always wanted to like let them have like what they need at the time. And so my philosophy at the beginning of my business was like, let me give them as much as possible, knowing that some people aren't going to use all of it, and then my time will still be protected. And the problem with that is that I was offering 6K programs where there was unlimited one-on-one calls. And although that's fine, and it actually did not burn me out, most of my clients didn't have it, they had so many resource spots that people ended up like not using really anything. And I didn't really feel like my clients were like crushing it as far as like results. The other thing is if clients were booking calls, they only ever talked to me in calls. So like my Slack was always dead, which was great again for time, but I only ever heard from them if they booked like a one-on-one call. And usually they only booked a one-on-one call when something was wrong. Like they're like, oh, I need help now, so now I'm going to book a call. They weren't proactively coming to me. So yes, my clients loved working with me. Yes, they loved what was included, but I actually think a lot of my clients re-signed because they got everything they thought they wanted at such a low price point that it was like a no-brainer in their brain, even though I hate that wording. Not because they actually like really saw results or like loved the intentionality behind it. And so getting rid of some of those elements was really hard because I had to do it because it actually hurt my clients. And so that was like a hard thing of, I pretty much didn't tell anyone. I honestly just like any clients that were re-signing, I just didn't add the one-on-one calls in there because none of them were really using it anyway. I had a conversation with a couple people that were using them, and we just kind of like moved on from that. And then I really struggled with like expansion. And I was like, okay, expansion, my clients loved that program. Like last year, the year and a half ago, when we were going into the beginning part of 2024, I was like, architect, not what I want. Expansion, exactly what I want. And the problem there is those clients were all really good at what they were doing. They were all very competent. They didn't really need a lot of direction. And so I was thinking, okay, I don't need to like direct them a lot. We'll have a lot of conversation. But then there was no real reason that they had to show up. So then those clients went MIA for a while. And so it's just been like such a hard thing because I think as a business owner, we all face this, but no one ever wants to talk about it because it's like, wow, I'm going to like look like I'm not crushing it at something. But I've always really struggled with like, how can I price myself in a way that stretches people, doesn't make me so out of range, doesn't make people be like, oh my God, this is wild, but stretches people in a way that's like super expansive to them, also allows me to give them the deliverables that they want, also doesn't conflict with the price point of private. Like, there's so many different things that I struggle with, and I wanted to share this, not necessarily to talk about like how I always navigate that, but also just more so to like open it up. And what I think I've really had to learn over the last like couple months is at the end of the day, like if I don't feel good in something, I just need to try. I just need to try to change it and see what happens. And so when I felt this pressure about my masterminds both not working, I just decided to combine them. And I get a question a lot of like, when do you pivot and when is it just like imposter syndrome coming in? And one of the things that I told my clients is when I am leaning with emotion or fear, that is not a sign for me to pivot. If any part of me is like, I'm afraid that if I keep going in this direction, that things are going to be bad. If I'm afraid or if that fear is coming up, I will not pivot because what I'm basically leaning on that by that place is emotion. And when I say, okay, this is why this isn't working. And if I make this, my gut is telling me this is going to happen and I'm leading with like intentionality, then that's coming from a place of logic. That is when I will pivot. And the moment I have that, I pivot then. And so if it's an offer I don't like, so our membership, we had a membership last year. How quickly did I cancel that membership? Like a week, a month? Lex is literally here with me. Like, I remember she's like, I love the membership. And I was like, I don't care. I just don't care. We pivoted that membership, I think, in like a week. I think I made the decision. I thought about it for like a couple weeks. I pretty much decided the membership does not align with my vision of going deeper with people because I have to cap the amount of support. And I don't like the platform. I don't like this. So I said, if the platform was gone, what does that look like? And then I said, if the membership was gone, what would that look like? And it made sense at the time to eliminate both. And I think like that pivoting energy like has really helped me a lot because one thing that I feel is I can always change my mind and that at least helps from the business side. Now, what that doesn't eliminate is client heaviness or fear that I'm not good enough. And I think like one of the biggest mistakes that I've made is I absorb a lot of content because I'm curious about content. And one of the things that I've had to like really realize is the more I am consuming, the more I am like cursing myself and my goals and my dreams, because I'm like putting heaviness on like my vision. I honestly look at creating or consuming content as like clouding the vision that I have. So I am pretty much in a state where after I post my content for the day, I'm like literally completely done with it. And that has been so good for me. But I also have to remember that like my success is not tied to the success of my clients. And also like most of my clients don't want to be me. And this is one thing that I really had to learn was my clients want to move at a pace that feels good for them. They want to like execute it a way that feels good for them. So how can I learn what that is versus how can I make them become me? Because most people do not want to do what I did to scale my business. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. I don't honestly want to do what I did to scale my business. I just kind of did it. But that's why I've also had to learn. Now, in the midst of that, what's also come is me not feeling good about certain elements of my program. So like me changing and like no one responding well to it. Not saying that they respond negatively, but like no excitement. I remember I posted about the change to DBM and like none of my clients said that that was exciting. Now, 2 people ended up joining DBM from headquarters and they were like, I love that it's a year, but my actual current clients didn't necessarily like say that that was exciting, probably because we've pivoted the program 6 times and I'm sure they're just like, oh, here's another pivot. Like they didn't think anything of it, but that felt really scary. Changing the price of headquarters felt very scary. But here's the other thing is I also have no issue going back. Like I have no issue of changing that back. So I think the thing that I'm like really trying to say is when you're thinking about your business, if you're putting something in place, are you giving yourself permission to say, this is a temporary tattoo, not a permanent one? Because everything in my business truly has been a temporary one. Also because you don't put bumper stickers on Bentleys, obviously, hashtag Kim Kardashian. So I would never, ever, ever do that. But everything in my business is a temporary tattoo. I put it on. I'm only going to trace over it with permanent ink if I'm like, yes, this is fucking good. But honestly, I haven't really done that with anything in my business. I think the only thing is I've really had in like permanent ink are the words disruptive and valuable and one of a kind, because I truly believe that's what business owners can create. Outside of that, like everything is genuinely a temporary tattoo. Now, the way in which they fade might change. I love DBM. I'm really excited it's a year. I love headquarters. I love that it's 6 months. Could change that to a year in the future. I have no idea. But I've just really had to like, be okay with the idea that anything in my business that I don't like, I can change. The other thing that I've had to be okay with is that at the end of the day, like when I am buried into the ground one day, like my tombstone is not going to say CEO of By the Blazer. It's just not. It's not going to say podcast host. It's not going to say anything else. I want people to be like, she really gave a shit about me. She really cared about me. Like good friends. I'd like that to be on the tombstone. So when I think about like even decisions in my business, it's not how do I be the best CEO for By the Blazer? It's like, how am I just a good friend to my clients? And like, that's actually how I lead my life. And so it's also how I lead my business. And when I'm in the DMs with someone, I'm not like, how do I get them to buy from me? I'm like, how do I make them feel safe? How do I make them feel like I'm a partner to them in this decision? When clients are unhappy, because it does fucking happen. Very rarely, thank fucking God. But if you don't think I've ever had a client issue, send them to collections, fired a client once, almost let them join again. Oh my God, that was dumb. I almost did that a couple weeks ago and I was like, what the fuck am I doing? I never am looking at it like, is this a reflection on my business? In fact, I don't even think about the business. I usually say, if I was this person, how would I handle this? And if that doesn't feel good, then I default to the business. And what I mean by that is if a client, is struggling or messaging me or payment, I'd be like, what would I want someone to do? And then if I'm like, okay, but that feels like very uncomfortable, or if I was consulting this person as their friend, I want to align with that, then I default to business, which is why unfortunately with like payments and stuff, we're like more strict on when it comes to like clients can't get out of contracts, clients have to pay their payments, but like adjusting a payment plan, that feels good for me. So I've kind of had to find where those boundaries are. And I've also had to like realize that I am a person and not everyone in the world is going to think I'm like freaking, whoever. Not everyone's going to like love me so freaking much. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. One of my good friends and I were talking the other week and she said, what I've noticed about business owners is people at the bottom are always People at the bottom are always competing. People at the top are always collaborating. So my new energy and everything in business is like, I don't have to be the winner of this because I don't actually see trophies associated with this thing in business. Just because this other girl just had an 80K week and I have a 5K week doesn't mean like she's amazing and I'm bad. It means that next week I'm going to have the 80K week and she's going to have the 5K week, and that's okay. Like, I genuinely realize that there is room for success for everyone. And when we start to think that we have to take up more space in order to like have more success, that's when I think we fall victim to the comparison, the imposter syndrome, and everything else. So my biggest like takeaway in thinking about my business, because I just wanted this to be like nice and short. You can listen to it on a walk. You can like think about it, in the middle of your day if you just need a little bit of insight or inspiration, is at the end of the day, I want you to look at your business through the lens of like how you would want people in your personal life to talk about you, right? Is she kind? Does she understand me? Does she care? Is she willing to adjust her schedule to like prioritize me? Those are all things that my clients can say about me, but because it's all things that my best friends can say about me. And that is why I think I don't overcomplicate my business. My imposter syndrome is not the same as it was a year and a half ago. I feel like I'm better at client delivery. I feel like my capacity is improved because I operate my business based on like me as a human being versus like what I think CEO Ashley Bennington needs to look like on paper. Because honestly, that girl doesn't exist. I might be in a blazer today, but I'm also wearing leggings with it. So just remember that when you guys think about success. So I hope that this is helpful. I think this is one of those conversations that sometimes you have to like have with someone or like talk through or just get a little bit insight on. But I also think it's something that is really important to have. And I want you guys to remember that like, just like Kylie Jenner does not get a pass on emotions because she's a billionaire, like I don't get a pass on struggles or stress or overcomplication or just not feeling good enough just because I've run a successful business, and you guys shouldn't either. So I hope that helps. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you next week.